is Leanna. That day in Chicago felt like a regular Thursday. The sky was soft gray, not gloomy, just quiet. I had just stepped into Bean and Leaf, my favorite coffee shop on North Clark Street. It was cozy, the kind of place where jazz played softly in the background, and the scent of roasted beans hugged the air. I came in to finish some reading for my art class. I sat by the window where I could see the streets gently buzzing with life. I ordered a vanilla oat latte and opened my sketchbook. That's when I saw him. He stood at the counter, hesitating between a caramel brew or a classic Americano. He wore a deep blue sweater, and his hair was slightly messy, like he had run there through the wind. But there was something calm about him. I didn't know why, but my eyes kept returning to him, like pages in a favorite book. He took his coffee and glanced around. All the tables were full, except the seat across from mine. Our eyes met. He smiled politely. "Mind if I sit here?" I nodded, pretending to be cool, though my heartbeat tapped a little dance. He introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Micah." I said he was new in Chicago, moved here just 2 weeks ago. We started talking, light, friendly, like a quiet tune in the background of a slow afternoon. And just like that, 2 strangers became a conversation. Micah told me he was a writer. "Not famous, just trying," he said with a grin. He'd come to Chicago for inspiration, and he liked watching people in cafes. "I guess I'm watching you now," he laughed. I laughed too, but felt a little nervous, not in a bad way, more like when you realize something unusual is happening. We talked about books. I told him I like to draw places I've never been to, imagine stories for people I've never met. He said he writes about imagined places that feel more real than his own life sometimes. There was something comforting about talking to him. We didn't know each other, but it didn't feel awkward. More like we were reading a shared story from 2 different corners of the same page. He showed me his notebook. It was filled with scribbles, sketches, even coffee stains. "Every stain is a memory," he joked. The hour passed quickly. I didn't even finish my latte. As he stood to leave, he looked down and said, "Maybe we'll both be back here tomorrow." Maybe we'll both be back here tomorrow. I nodded. "Same time, same seat," he smiled. The next day, I returned to Bean and Leaf. Same time, same table. And he was already there. Micah had ordered 2 lattes. One for him, one for me. "You seemed like the oat latte type," he smiled. I sat, surprised and amused. "That's exactly what I order," he shrugged. Writers have intuition. That day, we shared more stories, not just about books or dreams, but about small things. His favorite smell was fresh paper. Mine was rain on dry concrete. He liked winter. I preferred spring. We even played a game. One of us would draw or write something in the other's notebook without explanation, and the other had to create a short story from it. It was fun, silly even, but so natural. Then, at one point, he looked at me and said, "You know, some people feel familiar even if you've just met them." I didn't answer right away. I just smiled. Maybe he was right. Maybe some people are written into our lives before we turn the page. A week passed. We kept meeting. Same cafe, same table. People around us began to recognize the pattern. The barista, Jenna, always gave us a knowing smile. Even the old man in the corner seat would nod when Micah arrived. I finally asked, "What's on your mind?" He hesitated. I was thinking about how connections happen, like why some conversations stay with you, why some people feel like chapters you want to keep rereading. I said, "Maybe because they remind you of something you're looking for?" He nodded. "Yeah. Or maybe they help you discover what you didn't know you needed." He looked outside the window. Snow had begun to fall, light and slow. "I've moved around a lot," he said, "but this feels like a beginning." That sentence stayed with me. A beginning. That Saturday, I brought him a gift. A small sketch I had done of him writing by the window. He was surprised, then smiled. "You captured my messy hair perfectly." I laughed. "That's the signature look." We talked more about our childhoods. His in Portland, mine in Des Moines, about how art and words helped us through quiet days, helped us feel less alone. Micah said, "I think stories find their way into people, like they're alive." I said, "And maybe we're just helping them be heard." He nodded, eyes warm. Exactly. We didn't need background music that day. Our conversation filled the space, soft and complete. When we said goodbye, he asked, "Same time tomorrow?" This time, I said, "Let's make it a walk instead." His smile widened. Deal. Sunday morning, cold but sunny. We met outside the cafe, coffee in hand, and walked toward Lincoln Park. The lake shimmered. Ducks waddled. Children ran around with scarves flying behind them. We talked less, walked more. At one point, we sat on a bench. Micah handed me a folded paper. "Something I wrote," he said. It was a poem. About beginnings, about soft gray skies and oat lattes, about a girl who sat by a window and a boy who hesitated at a counter. I didn't know what to say. I just looked at him. He said, "It's not perfect, but it's true." I replied, "That's what matters." And in that moment, without any rush or pressure, we simply sat. The city moved around us, but we stayed still, together. Over the next few weeks, we met almost every day. Sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at the park, sometimes at the little bookstore near Belmont. We kept it simple, no labels, no promises, just presence. One evening, we painted mugs at a ceramic studio. Mine turned out terrible. His had a mountain and stars. He said, "This is us. Constant sky, steady earth." I laughed, and my mug? He grinned. Abstract genius. But we both knew. The mugs didn't matter. The memory did. And the more we shared, the more it felt like our lives weren't just running parallel. They were starting to weave. One snowy afternoon, Micah didn't show up on time. I waited. 10 minutes, then 20. I texted him. No reply. Just when I was about to leave, he rushed in, hair messier than ever. "Sorry," he said, catching his breath. "I got caught up writing." I smiled. That's a good excuse. He placed a small notebook in front of me. "Read later, if you want." That night, I read it. It was our story. From his eyes, how he noticed my sketchbook, how he hesitated before asking to sit, how every day after that felt more real. At the end, he had written, "You're not just part of a chapter. You're the reason I keep writing." Spring arrived in Chicago. Trees bloomed, sidewalks felt warmer. Our walks became longer. Laughter became louder. Even silence became sweeter. We went to the zoo, got lost in the museum, had the best hot chocolate on earth, at least according to Micah. One evening, we sat on a rooftop watching the city lights. Micah said, "Do you think things like this last?" I said, "I think stories last. If they're told with care." He nodded. "Then let's keep writing." And I knew this wasn't just a moment. It was a beginning that chose to stay. Today, exactly 1 year later, we met again at Bean and Leaf. Same table, same drinks. Micah took out a new notebook. He met again at Bean and Leaf. Same table, same drinks. Micah took out a new notebook. He handed it to me. On the first page it read, "The Story of Us," co-edited by Liana. I laughed, then paused. He looked at me and said, "Ready for a new chapter?" I nodded. "Let's write it together." Outside, Chicago moved as it always did. Busy, bright, alive. But inside that little coffee shop, time stood still, and two people, once strangers, kept writing a story that felt entirely their own.